Did you know that you've got an onboard supercomputer that you can use to access a digital hard drive of the simulation to get whatever answers that you want, any information, and also solve complex problems? Now, give me a like if you think you know what I'm talking about, but maybe it's not quite in the way that you're expecting. So, have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to remember the name of possibly a famous person from a film, or it could be you're trying to remember the name of a song, or maybe it could be just a person that you've not seen for a long time, and you're thinking and thinking and you're wrapping your brain, and it almost comes to the surface and then it disappears again. And then you finally give up and you start going off and doing something completely different, whether it's making a coffee or doing the washing up, and then suddenly out of nowhere the answer just pops into your head when you weren't actually thinking about it. Now, of course, in this respect I'm talking about the subconscious part of the brain, which is often said to be a lot more powerful than your conscious brain. Now, your conscious brain is the thing that we often try and use to think of things, to come up with solutions to problems. But actually, really, the conscious brain is more, it should be more something that gives instructions or puts requests out there. And then it's your subconscious brain that does the actual quote-unquote thinking. But actually, is it really doing thinking, or is it accessing information or creating an answer based on the information that's already out there? Now, in the past, this is described often as the Akashic Records, and I think, as Newton said, energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transferred from one form to another. And we know, we've proven scientifically, that thoughts do create an electrical current and different patterns as well, based on what you're thinking about. And you could argue based on your current vibration as to how strong that signal is. They've put probes on people's heads and they can see different brain patterns through scans, and we've got to the point now where you can think left or right and you can move a ball on the screen, and also it's getting to the point where you can even think certain words will have a certain pattern, or if you're having positive thoughts or negative thoughts. So we've already proven that your thoughts is creating information that can be put out into the ether. It doesn't disappear, it's just, it needs decoding. It's somewhere out there in the universe. Now, very interestingly, there are famous inventors, musicians, artists that have used this through their dreams to solve problems, to come up with inventions, to write songs, come up with stories. And one of the most famous inventors, of course, has to be Thomas Edison. And he's famous for inventing the light bulb, but it's worth Googling because he created literally hundreds of inventions, some that you never would have even realized was invented by him. But the interesting thing about Edison is what he would do is he would have these kind of naps, these sort of cat naps, if you like, and before going to sleep he would be really trying to think of maybe a problem that he's having with an invention, or he might simply think of a problem that needs solving and then trying to think, how could I solve that? What could I use to solve that problem? And then he would go to sleep in his chair and he would have some metal balls in his hand, and the purpose of that is when he was mid sort of sleep, when he was most typically dreaming about his solution, the balls then, as his hand would sort of flop as he falls asleep, would fall onto the floor, it'd make a clanging sound, and it would sort of wake him up. And the purpose of that is, as you know, when you wake up partway through your dream, you're much more likely to remember it. It's like when you wake up through a nice dream halfway through and you're like, I want to get back to sleep because you're having such a nice dream. Whereas when you complete the dream, that's normally where, when you wake up in a different state, in a sort of a lighter sleep, you're much less likely to remember it. Now, Tesla is another person who was famous for coming up with inventions and also solving problems through sleep. So, I mean, this is a whole nother topic, is, the sort of bleeding between sleep and awakeness. And then there's the whole thing around when we're awake, quote unquote, actually, could this be the dream? And when we're dreaming, that is reality. But I want to tell you a quick story about something that's strongly related to this that my granddad told me. Now, my granddad's passed away now, but when I was 10 years old, I used to go and stay with him for a week or two in the summer holidays. And he was a great person to be around as a 10-year-old boy, because he had his own wood, he had his huge garden, and he was always inventing these kind of wacky devices, create these wacky devices from bits of motors, from wheels and stuff that he'd sort of picked up from other things that had broken down. I remember he made this sort of automatic water feeder which had this belt on it from I think an old tractor or a traction engine, and it would sort of scoop up this water and then feed plants and things. He made a boat out of an airing cupboard, a fiberglass airing cupboard that he cut in half and put this little motor on the back, and cool things like that. But the key thing is, he told me at the time that he would often start making something, but he would get stuck at a certain point. So what he would do consciously is, before falling asleep, he'd lay in bed and he'd be sort of thinking, how can I fix this? How can I fix this? And then he would fall asleep and he would wake up in the morning. Now, he wouldn't deliberately disturb his sleep or have anything to wake himself up, but he would wake up in the morning and he could actually remember drawings and sketches and blueprints of how to fix the problem. And he would go, I wish I'd asked him more about this at the time, but you never realise the significance of things, especially when you're younger. And he would sort of run down to his workshop that was out in his garden, and he would try it, and 9 out of 10 times it would fix the problem or get him sort of 90% of the way. And I think that's absolutely incredible. And as I say, in the simulated universe, of course, the information would already be out there, because the thing or the people that created that simulation, they would have access to all of that information. And we are simply accessing it on that hard drive via our subconscious brain. I mean, is our subconscious really just a sort of a Wi-Fi device that is connecting to that information and then downloading it into our conscious brain so that we can go and then actually put that to use? So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. What do you think about that? Does that sound like a plausible theory? Do you maybe have a theory of your own? And please subscribe if you like information about the simulated universe. I'm putting out videos every couple of days, and I'm trying to keep it focused to this topic because I think it's a fascinating topic and have plenty more to talk about. And also give me a comment if you'd like to hear more about a certain topic within the simulation that I've not maybe spoken about. So thanks for watching, take care, I'll speak to you soon.